I'm trying to get you to tease apart these past 40 or 50 years we've been looking at here as a radio personality. What you've seen with our county, with our town. Sum it up for me, Russ Miller.
There have been such a tremendous amount of changes that I've seen over the years. I was born in the mid-50s, so I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I mean, I graduated high school in the 70s, and I've been working in radio since then, since the 70s. So, and in my teenage years, I listened to the radio a lot, of course, during the mid to late 60s. I can remember the first time I heard the Beatles. On my brother had, my older brother had a small Hitachi 9 transistor AM radio, little pocket radio, that was a little bit bigger than a pack of cigarettes. And I remember laying across his bed one night and listening to a station in Chicago, WLS, that I literally grew up listening to, and to this day still try to emulate, I guess, because that was kind of my ideal radio station over the years that I listened to. And we do that in radio. We always hear someone else and we copy it. It's a copycat industry like everything else. But anyway, I remember laying there and hearing this sound, hearing this group that was the Beatles, that was also in the news, and it was such a revolutionary changing sound, that, of course, looking back historically now, made such a difference in not just the music world, but the social world, period, over the years to come. So I probably got, I guess, bitten by a radio bug early in life, and it's, aside from the usual things when you're a little kid and you want to be an astronaut and you want to be a fireman and then you want to, drive a tractor and be the little things that kids like. Aside from that, whenever I got old enough, I had decided that I didn't have a whole lot of musical talent, so I probably was never going to be a rock star. Therefore, I wanted to be on the radio, and so that's what I did. And apparently, it's what I had the aptitude for, because I've stayed with it through thick and thin. Now, as for the changes in Crossett, man, this place, it grew, it expanded over those years. There was, you're talking about storms. When I was in the 4th grade, which would have been mid-60s, maybe 65, 66, a tornado came through town that did some extensive damage. And it's the first tornado I remember, like being around or being in. And it kind of came across the south part of town, tore some houses out of here. Again, I don't think it injured anybody. We were real fortunate there. But there was that. And then, since then, there have been other bad storms. There have been ice storms. Ice storms have probably done more damage around here than anything. And I think I can remember maybe three really severe ice storms that have hit this area over the past few decades. And that is the only thing I can think of that has knocked out electricity like this windstorm did last week. Literally knocked everybody out. That's something that you just don't see. All of Crossett proper, the city itself, was down. All the surrounding areas. Hamburg was completely dark. So was Fountain Hill. Wilmot was completely dark over in the eastern part of the county. Parkdale and Montrose, I think, were dark for a day or two and then got their lights back. So everyone suffered with this, because the damage was so extensive. And the ice storms are the only other thing that have done that kind of damage around here before. The changes that have occurred, I mean, Crossett expanded, and we've seen so much change. And I look at it from the point of view of our involvement. I mean, as radio being here, our stations being here through all of it. And when you look at it, say, from a business aspect, which we very much have to do because a radio is a commercial business like everybody else. We sell advertising, you know, just like a newspaper would. That's the way you make your money, is you sell advertising and for all those ads that you hear on the radio. And in the 60s and also in the 70s, whenever I started radio, all through that, we had so many smaller businesses here in Crossett. And I'm talking about Crossett, but Ashley County in general. Hamburg is the same way. And, you know, everybody around us was the same way, too. You had a lot of individual shops and department stores, and you had a plethora of like drugstores, and but what you did not have was Walmart. You didn't have a big retail outlet like that. I think the first one of those that ever came to Crossett was probably Gibson's. Now that was located where the main mall is today. They're at 101 Main Street, the old general store from the Crossett Company days. The company store was located there. Excuse me. And I believe Gibson's was probably the first one. It later became Howard Brothers and moved out to West Crossett. And then you had another, you know, a few more stores, what you'd call discount stores come through town. And then, of course, Walmart came on the scene, and they ended up building a store on South Main here, which is currently Atwood's today, that building, once they moved out to the east side of town, out near where our studios are now, where they're located to this day. But you didn't have those big stores back then. You had small shops. So there was a whole lot of business, a lot of retail business going on, a very large, close-knit business community. That has disappeared over the years. The small businessman has found it harder and harder and harder, not just in Crossett, but in America, period, to stay in business and operate, particularly in smaller towns. Now, still quite a bit of that in larger urban areas. You've got enough business that you can operate small businesses and still get by. But in small towns, no, because and part of it is because of these large retail outlets, larger stores that come in and literally offer everything and can offer it at a lower price. So they're putting some of the little men out of business. Now, from our aspect, as a radio station, depending on advertising revenue to operate, well, that's business gone. We're losing customers right there. You've got so many smaller operations that aren't there anymore. So we don't have all these commercials for this guy's drugstore and this other guy's clothing store and things like that, because they're not there anymore. So we have to change our aspect, how the revenue that we approach, and so if you listen to radio stations now, even in cities, you think about the commercials that you hear that are local, car dealers. That's going to be the big one right there. You hear car dealers, you'll hear one car dealer after another, and you might occasionally get a clothing store or something like that. But for the most part, it's going to be car dealers or maybe what we call industrial customers that come along that just present present advertising for public image values, you know. So you've had all those changes over the years. And then we've had in recent years, so much of our industrial operation has shut down here in Crossett and has left, so that, you know, we have just a small just a small paper mill now working here. Everything else has gone or sold out or ceased operations. And that has taken a big chunk out of the workforce period here. And conversely, a big chunk of the area revenue has gone down because of that. And here again, that's reflected in your lack of businesses and small businesses in particular. So it's made it harder for everyone to get by. So you've seen a lot of change. Crossett had a lot of growth in, especially I'd say the 80s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s were still pretty good. And even the early 2000s. Since then, I think it's been drifting the other direction. Even our population of the area has drifted down since then. So it's, you know, you hope it's one of those things that's cyclical, you know, maybe just you have your ups and downs. And since we're all living here and we have a vested interest in this, we're all hoping it will come back up. Some places do, and there are some places that don't. You know, some communities simply slowly fade away. I don't think Crossett's going to be one of those, and I certainly hope it won't be. If it does, I guess I'll fade away with it.
Well, and we hope that's not the case, because this is a beautiful area down here, and if
it really is.